Yes.
My father was a metallurgist. My mother was a nurse, a registered nurse. I grew up in just outside of Toronto, and I since married and had a son who is now he's a cinematographer as well. His name is Matt Irwin, and he's also on IMDb. So filmmaking, both my mother and my grandmother on her side were very avid photographers, and in fact my grandmother used to not only take pictures but process them and print them. I didn't know this till later in life, because all these great family photos were someone else took them, and she took them, and not only that, all in the bathroom in the little houses in Southern Ontario. And my son is now shooting, more than I am. He's traveling all over the world. In fact, he was in Argentina last year doing a film sponsored by GoPro, and they were traveling everywhere, all over South America. A lot of the films that I've done have been horror films for David Cronenberg and Wes Craven and others, and a lot of the comedies like Dumb and Dumber and Kingpin. I've done a Jackie Chan movie in Hong Kong called The Protector. That was 1984. By far, the hardest films to shoot are comedies. The truth is that making people laugh is very hard, and so there's a lot of passion, shall we say, a lot of disagreement on the set as to what is actually funny. And you'll have people saying, I know funny, you don't know funny, I wrote this, you don't know funny, and there's lots of arguments. So whereas you blowing up cars or crashing cars or having people kickboxing, that's always lots of fun. Nobody has opinions about what does or doesn't work. So I've been doing it since 1973, started in Toronto in shooting porno films for the theatrical circuits there. It was before video of any kind, and kept shooting in Toronto until 1987. Did a film in Malaysia called BAT-21, BAT-21, which was a Vietnam War film. And then from that point on, I moved to Los Angeles and have been working there or out of there ever since. So that's been 30 years in Los Angeles. That's long enough, I guess. I don't know. Well, I was very lucky in some ways. In Canada and probably all across America, North America. I was born in 1950, so by 1955 I was learning how to use the film strip projector in my Sunday school class. I would thread it up and show film strips and slides about Joseph and his coat of many colors, or Moses parting the Red Sea, that sort of thing. So I learned early on about images, and in public school there was no TV in those days, at least not watch this DVD or watch this videotape.
Yes.
So there was a projector, and that became my job. I became AV kid, or as they call it, we used to call ourselves, or call them now, the AV geek, who would have a projector and a whole stack of reels of film and a little cart. We'd roll up down the hallway, go to different classrooms, put up a screen and project the movie. So what my students saw was a movie once. I saw it 6 or 7 times, and that is what got me interested in motion picture. I started taking still pictures because I couldn't afford to make movies. By 1960, I had a double 8 camera which shot 16 millimeter, and it was unique in the double 8 rather than super 8. You could put in a 16 mil roll, which was 100 feet long, shoot it, 16 mil, take it out, turn it around, and thread it again, and shoot it again on the other side. So we started making movies in high school, 1963. I ended up going to university, but worked in England in the film industry and the TV industry and then just kept into imagery. Went to film school in Toronto in 1970 to 73, and graduated on a Saturday, and on that following was working on a porno film. A lot of things could happen in a short time. And give you an example.
Okay.
Quite often, as I said, what I have done as a cinematographer has been radically different for every project. So when I did The Fly, and then I did There's Something About Mary, I made sure that Something About Mary didn't look like The Fly. And at the same time, if I did RoboCop 2, I didn't want to make that look like Dumb and Dumber. So you have to really apply the skills as not just a director of photography, but as an interpreter. I mean, I did films like 10 Things I Hate About You, and the director was very steeped in broadcast television. He had done sitcoms, and that was it. He wanted everything to look like a sitcom.
Yeah.
And I gave him what he wanted when I did Scream with Wes Craven, or Vampire in Brooklyn, or his last film I did. The first film I did with him was Wes Craven's New Nightmare. These were all applications to the story itself. So if something is darker and has different motivated camera moves, that comes out of the story. I mean, I'm looking at my list here. The same year I did 3 films. Mighty Ducks, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and Dumb and Dumber. So a family film, a scary movie with Freddy Krueger, and then a slapstick comedy. So, for example, the film I'm working on right now, the director will bring the cast together, and the director will basically block the scene, which is a structure for everyone to be part of, every member of the crew. Sometimes David Cronenberg would say, I want to block with the actors and with Mark and nobody else. And everyone had to go away and have coffee for an hour. And then he'd bring in everyone and they could watch. That's kind of the restricted, the kind of religious outlook. But some directors, especially a guy like David, never draw a storyboard. He said, I don't know what cartoonist knows where I'm going to put the camera, so I'm not going to let somebody draw things and then have a producer say, but it's here in the storyboard. You have to shoot that shot.
Yeah.
Traditionally, though, we will block with actors, then bring in the crew. Everyone will see the blocking, which may be a simple camera move, like a pan or a dolly into a front yard, backyard, or it could be a big, huge crane shot on a backlot street at night with smoke and cars and rain and everything, Blade Runner style. Then the actors and director leave, and it's all me and my camera crew, my grip crew, or the riggers, and then the electricians. Sometimes we'll have special effects if we want smoke, if we want water, if we want bullet hits, or flame effects. All these things are required for production. They're all there waiting to be used, and I kind of have to use them in the right order. If there is a particular need for a lens, like a macro lens for a close-up, or a split field diopter, or a special zoom, or a remote head, which is to say a crane, short or long crane arm with an unoperated, man-operated head that pans and tilts the camera. All that has to be part of the plan that I'm drawn into to make sure that everything is there, the personnel knows how to handle it, and we can do it on time. That's the secret of filmmaking. It's not making a movie, it's making a movie on time. So I have the job as a technician, a director of photography, to run departments. Also a job as a collaborator on an artistic level with the director, and the unseen, the invisible job of being somewhat of a psychiatrist to understand moods and wants and demands and insecurities and either eliminate them or assuage them so we can still make our day. My favorite film, people ask me, what's my favorite film? And I always tell them the same thing, it's Bat-21, B-A-T-21. We shot it in Borneo, which is an island in the South China Sea, in a place called Sabah. And if you look it up on a map, you just keep going and going until you find a city called Kota Kinabalu. And we were in the jungles outside of that. That was by far the hardest, mechanically hardest film to do. Just shooting in the jungle, in rain, you name it. That was the hardest. The hardest scene I had to do was at the final scene in The Fly, where just scrolling back to here, The Fly, 1986. Wow. So the scene in which Jeff's character, Seth Brundle, now is in his final stage of metamorphosizing into a fly, and he's blind from the he's basically walking on the wall, doing what flies do, and he meets Gina Davis, or she meets him, I should say, and says, I can't do this anymore. He's going beyond, and then he kind of involves her in his final fly transformation. That was phenomenally difficult for one simple reason. The producers were adamant to make sure it didn't look like a man in a rubber suit. So I had to light him dark enough to be scary, and yet light enough to know that it wasn't some rubber blob running around in the dark. This was on film. So with film, you didn't see the image until after it was processed. Photochemical system. Right now, you can look at a waveform monitor on any kind of screen that you're shooting on HD. Right now, I'm shooting on an Amira, and I can judge exactly how dark or light I can make it. In 1986, I didn't have that option.
Yes.
31 years ago. So you had to use your eye, your light meter, your judgment, and then deal with the what we call the curve, which is the latitude of the film stock. How dark is too dark? I can light it and then read it darker. So we ended up creating shadows. The problem was that Gina was in the scene, and she wasn't in a fly outfit. So her skin was very, very luminous, pale white, kind of skin that you can see the veins in her forehead. They had a scene where they were nose to nose, and I had to light her 2 stops darker, 4 times darker, and him almost 4 times brighter, so they would both look normal within the mood of the scene. So I guess from a textbook standpoint, that was the most difficult thing I had to do. And I've, done all kinds of, RoboCop 2 was immensely difficult and complicated, but I don't know, the fly seemed to stand out for me.